Automation Nation, Automation Nation, Automation Nation, around the nation. Automation Nation, Automation Nation, Automation Nation, around the nation, around the nation, around the nation. Welcome to the Automation Nation podcast, the show for business leaders, tech aficionados, and those who are just simply curious about where technology and business are going. Automation Nation is your gateway to understanding automation, AI, and the future of business. Don't get left behind. Tune in now and subscribe for more. Don't get left behind, ladies and gentlemen. Tune in now and subscribe for more. Welcome. We are back for another Automation Nation conversation. I got my guest friend, and I've known him on LinkedIn for a while, the guy who knows his stuff, Mr. Jason Cutter. And Jason's good. I mean, we've actually been on a podcast before because I've done multiple different podcasts, and I'm always looking to have the smartest people on my podcast because I believe that when you get around smart people, they know something you don't know, and then somebody doesn't know what they know. So now they can share things people don't know. So now if you're listening, you can know something you didn't know. Rewind that.
Now you know.
Now you know.
And see? Knowing is half the battle.
And knowing is half the battle. And that's from G.I. Joe. You know what, Jason? Yeah. Knowing is half the battle. And you know what the other half is?
Doing.
This guy, see, we are cut from the same cloth. That's it. And that's how they could have ended it. They could have ended every cartoon like that. Knowing is half the battle. And at the very end, the other half is doing. Thanks for being here.
and that's the part that they left out. And there's a lot of people who know but don't do, right? Like there's a lot of people, they know a lot of stuff.
Oh, we're going to get into that.
That's a whole nother show. That's a different topic.
Well, hopefully if you're tuning in, but wherever you're watching this or listening to this from or at, you are one of the folks who do. And if you're not one of the folks who do, hopefully we can inspire you to do more after this podcast. Jason, I'm going to read a little bit of your bio here from LinkedIn, man. I'm reading a little bit of this here. Well, basically, I like your description, man. It says, his mission is to help good companies help more customers. Help good companies help more customers. When a company wants more results from their sales team, that's when you call Jason. He's the author of the Selling with Authentic Persuasion. Now, listen, selling with authentic persuasion. Now, I want to get into that because there's something very powerful about those two words. Okay, because everyone's trying to persuade, but we're missing a little element of authenticity. And so we always hear about that. But how do we get there, Jason? You're going to help us get there. You're going to help us get there. We're also going to talk about how automation is super important when you're dealing with sales and how if you're selling, whatever you're selling, if you can implement the right automation strategies, you can sell more and better. Okay, and we're going to get into that. So if you are listening or watching, you want to stay here. And of course, you got free resources down in the description. And you can always connect with our guests as well. So now let's jump into it, Jason. Man, welcome to the Automation Nation podcast. And why don't you jump right in and tell folks why the heck are you doing what you do today?
Thanks for having me, Rob. Super excited to be here. I just was happy with your intro music in the show. You're like a very creative musical guy that also does some amazing business stuff. So you have some talents and skills that I don't on the music side, which I absolutely love. So why do I do what I do? Well, I am the product of two analytical, amazing, loving parents who just celebrated 50 years of marriage last month. They analytical, operation minded. They instilled that in me, nature and nurture. I was shy, awkward, left out, late bloomer, just kind of weird as a kid, still weird as an adult, and whatnot. And my parents hated salespeople, hated business people, classic gross salespeople. So I went on a path where I just avoided people for a while. Got my bachelor's degree in marine biology, tagged sharks instead of wanting to deal with people, and then I realized, like, I fell into sales, and I thought sales was a thing. Like, sales is what you do. It's like what you see in the movies. It's what people do to other people. And then I realized it's not. It's sales is service. Then that, if you have something that people need or want that will help them get to another place, you actually owe it to them to help them buy from you. And so then looking at it that way, like, they need you. And if you don't help somebody, you're actually letting them down. And so then how do we build a world full of salespeople and sales operations that way, instead of the classic old school, like, you have money and I'm going to separate you from your money with whatever strategy it takes.
Good breakdown. Good breakdown, man. Yeah. And we know that the most sales is looked at with a nasty frown, right? We're trying to turn that frown upside down. And the way you do that is it was a few things, and we're going to get into that. But how we reach that level of authenticity and how we actually can reach the customer that we're trying to reach the way we want to reach them. Jason, before we kick this off, we ask all of our guests this one question. If you could simply automate one thing in your personal life, what would it be?
Man, in my personal life, what would that be? I would say anything to do with food. If I could not just like have to like manually order food and get it delivered, but just like automate and have that all taken care of where I don't have to think about that anymore at scale, then yes, that would be the thing.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. That's a brand new one right there. It's literally brand new. All right, let's get to some of these questions. I actually had some folks send some stuff in too, man. What's your vision? How do you see automation changing the landscape of the salesman?
Well, so it's tough because I have a two-minded answer to this. Is how do I see automation changing the landscape of sales operations for good or for evil, right? And so it's kind of two different parts. The first one is for evil, and not necessarily for like evil intentions, but just in something that's not effective and not useful. Is there's so much that happens with scalable automation that people use to try to do things at scale that just doesn't work. And I won't go into a lot of the time here because I know there's a lot we want to talk about. But if anyone's curious at why you keep buying automation tools and outreach tools and marketing automation and all these different things, and nothing keeps working, and you keep sending emails, B2B, especially B2B, and it's just not working, check out an amazing book. It's called Sales Innovation Paradox by Dr. Howard Dover. It'll explain why it doesn't work, why it won't ever work, what has changed in the world of professional sales, and what to do instead. And so the big thing is understanding that you can send 1 million emails. Nobody has to respond to them. And it's just never going to work. Like the tools that you have can easily be rebutted by the people you're trying to reach out to. Like, I can mark every email you send me, Rob, as spam, and I can destroy your deliverability within days, like if I need to, if I find it annoying. And so that approach doesn't work. Now, on the other side of your question, that question that was submitted is, where is automation impactful to sales operations in a good way? The key is really, what can you automate and do, and what parts of the process can you have in place around sales people, right? In their sales operations, in their processes, in their flows, in the things that make sense that you can scale and automate, such that you're setting the person, the human, the salesperson, up for doing the one job that we need them to do, which is to be a human interacting with other humans. It's why I say it's all H to H. It's not B2B, it's not B2C. And so where it's really helpful is, what can you automate that facilitates the human doing the human things that we still need humans for?
Ooh, automate that so the humans can do what the humans are needed to do, which is communicate with other humans. So automate the things around the humans that they are doing that need to get done, but they don't need to do.
Correct.
I mean, listen, it sounded really good coming out of your mouth. And so And it feels really good when it's executed. It feels really good when it's executed. I think there's a challenge with that because again, we were just talking about we don't know what we don't know, so people are scared. Businesses are scared to even take a look at some of those nuances or some of the new things. Do you what do you do with those scared folks, man? It's like you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but that old dog needs to know these tricks.
So
how are you helping them, man?
So it triggers some people sometimes, but it's very true. Of the 12 steps, the first step is the most important, which is admitting you have a problem and that you're powerless to do anything about it. Right? Of the 12 steps in a 12-step program. And that's really it, right? Like with the companies that I see, the leaders that I see, anybody, even if it's their own process they're working with, like they first have to come to terms with what I'm doing isn't working, or there might be a better way, right? It's not always about pain, but sometimes it's about gain. And then, okay, maybe there's a better way and I don't know what to do. And now I'm open to help or feedback, right? Until that moment happens, it doesn't matter. That's why the old dogs won't learn new tricks, is because they think they know everything and they don't want to, put their ego aside, right? In any category, right? It's not just sales or business. But there's plenty of people who are like, yeah, I don't know everything. And I want to learn and I want to be more effective and more efficient. And so that's really the key there, is to make that leap, which only that person can do. Like truly, that person can do that. And then the magic can start.
Then it can start. Then it can start. When it comes to like scaling, right? Everyone wants to scale. Like how do you, because you could try to scale too quick and destroy yourself, right? There's levels to this. Well, what's some of the advice that you give and to help folks ensure that they don't fall off a cliff?
Well, and I think with that one is, it's what's most important that you can scale. What can you put automation and tools and technology in that's the most vital, that's going to make the biggest difference, right? Because in a model that I built, there's 24 different categories in a sales operation that you need to have account for, right? Whether it's systems, process, technology, documentation, there's 24 different areas. Now, that's everything from like corporate culture, which obviously you're not going to automate and scale, but you need to have a mission, vision, and core values. And then, to technology, to the CRM, to the compensation plan, to all that. But you got to figure out what's the biggest levers that will help you the most. And then where can you add in automation and scalability to that, and then just take it step by step, right? Like play the long game, where if you just add more and more that's manageable, that you're gonna get where you want to go. I see some companies where they're like, let's automate everything, or they're really susceptible to really smooth B2B technology salespeople who sell them all kinds of things. And then they end up with this whole suite of products and tools that they can't use and no one can manage, and no one has enough time to manage and implement and roll out and then hold everyone accountable to. And so it becomes a whole bunch of shelfware that they think, okay, none of this works. And it's because they try to do too much too fast without the right resources. It's usually a resource issue internally.
It rolls right into the next question. Rolls right into the next question, and a lot of times it's that a resource issue, huh? So when you are implementing automation, a lot of times the people can get lost, right?
Yeah,
and you can lose that personal touch. You can automate yourself right out of business, actually.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, because there are pros and cons to this. So I love this conversation, man. How would you tackle this?
Well, and this goes back to one of the questions earlier where I was talking about people trying to send 1 million emails, or just trying to automate and scale all of the stuff and hoping to play the numbers game, right? That's where it's really ineffective, is when you're playing the numbers game as a salesperson. Well, if I can get 1% of the people to answer my emails, I'll just send 3 million emails, and then like, this will work. This is amazing, right? But that no longer holds true. And that scorched earth approach is terrible, short-term and long-term, right? Because it's just
scorched earth approach.
It is, right? It's like, hey, how do I get this LinkedIn automation tool and send everyone a message as fast as possible and do? And again, we're laughing because we've all been there. Anyone who's watching this via
Yep.
LinkedIn has
Yep.
known what it's like on the other side of like, okay, well, I didn't respond to your LinkedIn message, so 3 days later, I'm going to get a different message. Like it, we all have been on the other side, and we've all probably tried it on our side, and we've thought about doing it, and it's like, you know, it's one of those things where that scorched earth, it's detrimental on our side. It's also detrimental to our online reputation, which this is the thing. Scorched earth, number game, old school sales mentality was okay pre-internet. But now use scorched earth and send the wrong emails to the wrong people. They'll put you on blast online. And now you're worse off than you were, right?
You're
And I
blacklisted.
will say, I have a story. I don't remember the details, but a few years ago, I did this. I did an automated thing on LinkedIn, and I sent a message out to a bunch of people, and somebody got offended by it, copied and pasted it, put it into a LinkedIn post, and just destroyed me online. Like I was the victim. And it was not completely insensitive. It was an email that I sent, and then she posted it on there. And it wasn't that I was trying to be offensive, just it was insensitive, and I learned a lot from it. Wow. And then I acknowledged it, and I online, like I commented on it, and I recognized it, and I acknowledged it, and I chatted with her, and you know, it was a good learning experience for me. But like, this is the outcome. If you're not careful, everything you do will end up online, right? Like you and I remember a time, like thankfully everything we did as kids wasn't published online, but now everything that salespeople do is published online. Like if you screw up, right, everything. And so that's what you have to keep in mind, is if you try to automate all of your outreach and you're not careful, you'll actually go backwards instead of forwards. And so to answer this question, the key is what can you automate that sets you up for the human touch, right? Like what can you automate? Like this is the kind of stuff like AI is really good at, the research and the data collection. If you're doing B2B sales, how do you speed up the research process to serve you up something that you can then do your outreach? Because now you know about that person, the company, their PR blast, the investment, the fundraising, you know all that like in an instant, and then you can serve that up as a human reaching out to a human. So you don't scale that last like mile, you scale everything else before that.
Yep. So you could run that last mile even better.
That's it, right? And you can focus on you in that last mile. Like in business, like delivery operations, Amazon, all that stuff. It's that the final mile is the key, right? That's where most companies lose it.
Man, that's big. That's big. HI plus AI equals EI. Human intelligence plus artificial intelligence equals enhanced intelligence. Enhanced intelligence is what we're looking for. We're looking to enhance the human intelligence. You enhance it with AI, but it has to work together. And that comes through conversation, dialogue, understanding your processes, and having folks around you that know more than you know. Let's talk about this gap analysis and how it can help the process, because this is huge.
Yeah. And
this. And you're a master in this section here, man.
And this is the thing, right? And this is going back to that model that I built with the 24 different categories is, and I know it's cliche, but cliches work. So I'll take it. It's okay. Is the model an image of an iceberg, right? And again, we know most everyone knows, like above the surface of the iceberg is what you see of the iceberg itself, and that only accounts for 5 to 10%. And then, you know, there's 95% of its mass down below, right? It's very cliche. You see it like about goals, and then you see all these things underneath, or success, and then all the different things underneath the iceberg, underneath the surface of the water that you don't see, like the hard work and the pain and the crying and the scars and all that stuff, right? Like, so it's overused, but it's also very effective. And so for me, in what I see is that for you to have a scalable sales operation, you can't just put a bunch of good people on the phones or out there and hope that they're not going to know what to do at scale. They can do it somewhat, but not at scale, right? So what you see above the surface of the iceberg is a closed sale. That's what everyone sees. To celebrate, the high fives, the ringing of the bell, the president's club. That's just what you see. But underneath that, to make a scalable sales operation, is all those other categories. Again, from company culture to compensation plan to recruiting, training, onboarding, the technology, the lead generation, lead management, leadership itself. Like, do your leaders actually know how to lead, or did you just promote salespeople into leaders and think, hey, you sold well, go help everyone else sell well, and that should work, which never does. And
Yeah,
so the
it
gap
does.
analysis is like, a think of taking your car to the mechanic. It's lifting the hood, it's doing a full inspection of the sales operation. Where do you want to be? Where do you wish your sales operation is? Where is it now? And where is it in all those categories? And then which ones, if you added to and improved over time, are going to help you get to the goals? Because maybe you're short in training, maybe you need more leadership development, maybe your company culture isn't as strong as you think it is. Like, it's all of those things as a whole. If you want to succeed, all of them have to be accounted for. Otherwise, what I tell people is you're just playing sales, right? You're playing pickup ball at the YMCA, thinking that you should be making NBA money, and it just doesn't work.
Playing pickup ball. That's an interesting concept. How do we, how do we begin the process of leveling up and playing NBA ball? I mean, everyone wants to play. Everyone wants to be serious. What are those steps?
Well, and everyone wants to get paid for that, right? But very few people actually put in the work, and the work involves systems, processes, structure, using things like CRMs, using things like tools and automation, actually training, actually practicing, developing, learning, right? Some people think, oh, I've just arrived, like I know what I'm doing. And then they're jumping into the game every day without any role playing, any practice, any skill development. The really good companies and really good salespeople are like, I always want to keep growing, always want to keep learning, always want to figure out how to get better and better. Right. And just so you know, and this is the big thing for people listening or watching this isn't always just about making a lot more money, right? Money is important. Money is a good indicator, but not everyone's driven like, I got to make a ton of money. I want to make good money. I want to get here. I want to get there. So this isn't just like, okay, only the top performers want to make a lot of money, but it's anybody who understands that sales is already really hard because it's full of rejection and our brain hates that. And then two is that your opponent, if you will, is always changing and evolving and always getting better and better at what they do as your opponent, right? So think of professional sports. You always got to, get better. If you're going to win, you have to be better than your professional sport opponent. In sales, you have to be better than your opponent, which is the fears and doubts and limitations of your potential customers and the tools and technologies that they have that block your access, like I was talking earlier. And if you don't get better at getting to them and having good conversations with them, you will lose because they're always getting better. It's harder to sell now than it was 2 years ago. It has nothing to do with the pandemic, right?
Yeah, man, you're so right. You're so right. They're getting big. They're getting better. It's funny if you're playing basketball or a sport, your opponent's getting better because they're getting better in their skills, whatever.
Yeah.
And regards to customers, they're getting better because they're getting more educated and they're getting more inundated. They're getting educated.
They are.
And inundated.
And that's the thing, right? That's what Dr. Howard Dover talks about in that Sales Innovation Paradox book, is that it's not just you and I using some emails and sending 1 million emails this month. Not that we would ever do that, but it's the whole sales world thinks that, and people are buying that. And so everyone's getting, like, again, all of us are also consumers in our own lives. Think about how much stuff we get hit with constantly. And then think about how much effort we do. I think about how many subscriptions I have that I pay for so that I don't have to have ads. I have a subscription for Pandora and YouTube and Netflix, no ads, and because I don't want to see them. You do not get to me. I don't care. And then we turn into salespeople. We clock in, we try to sell, and we forget that people don't want to talk to us either.
Right. So interesting.
Yeah.
So interesting, man. You're big on sales training. You're big on what is the if you were doing a training 101, what would be some things you would cover for folks? And I'm asking this question because I believe it's important. I don't care what industry you're in. Everyone's selling. Everyone's selling in every position, whether you're selling direct to the customer or whether you're selling an idea to the team, whether you're trying to sell yourself. Okay.
Yeah.
To get some things done. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, there's two things, like actually 3 things. Well, maybe 9 things. Well, let's go with 3. The first one is that everyone is in sales, right? Like, it's all about sales and persuasion. And I was chatting and I didn't have it up here, but the comments are true. Like Mike put in here. that sales, sell is a 4-letter word to most people, right? Both receiving and giving. Like most people are saying, I would never want to be in sales because I don't want to be terrible. And I don't want to do that to people because I hate when it's done to me. And that's the unfortunate part about sales is not regulated. And that's a whole different discussion. So one is, keep in mind that you're always in sales. And depending on what your definition of sales is, like you're helping someone get to a better place. And that might be you in the position, you want to get a raise, you need to lead your team. So that's the first thing. The second one is, to me, sales is leadership and leadership is sales, which we can unpack if we have time, but it's super important to remember that. Like if you're in a leadership role, it's about selling and persuading your team to follow you. Management's about pushing, leading's about pulling. And then the other part,
that again.
so management is about pushing and leadership is about pulling. So when I want to manage something, I'm going to push something, right? So I'm not going to manage my finances. I'm going to push my finances. I'm going to manage a process, or we're going to manage, cleaning the yard. Like I'm pushing that, right? When you manage your team, you're pushing your team to get the results that you need them to get, right? It's why people don't like being managed. It's why people don't like micromanagers. It's that feeling. Now, when you're in a leadership capacity and when you're thinking and operating and in a place of being a leader in your actions, right, in your words and what you're doing, not just a title, but I mean like in what you're doing. Now all of a sudden it's, I have a vision, I have a destination, I have a goal, there's a reason why we want to go there. Who wants to come with me? Let's go. Right now it's about pulling. And so, and you can be, sometimes you're a manager title and you're acting like a leader. Sometimes you have a leader title, but sometimes you just have to act like a manager, right? Sometimes I need to push you all. You are not doing your job. Yeah. I'm going to push you. I'm going to be on your back. I'm stepping on necks. We're going to get this done until we can get back to you following me, but we need to reset, right? So there's times where you both have to occur. And then here's what's super fascinating, Rob, is that in my experience and opinion, most classic sales models and modes are managing prospects. So what I'm doing is I'm pushing you across the finish line. So I'm going to manage you. I'm going to manage your objections. I'm going to manage your budget. I'm going to manage everything. And then I'm going to push you towards the finish line to accomplish my goal because I'm a manager and it's my goal and I don't care what you want. That's sales. In my experience and what I help people shift their mindset to is that when you're doing it right, and I will judge it, I'll judge it like crazy. When you do it right with the right intention to help somebody, you're leading them across the finish line and they're literally following you, right? You set the direction, you find out what they need and want, you know where the finish line is, you tell them how to get there and say, follow me, let's go. And then they follow you and we go. Right. It's not always easy, but it's like that. And so sales is leadership and leadership is sales.
Love it.
I didn't even answer your question yet, but there you go.
Sales is leadership and leadership is sales, man. That sums it up right there. I love that, man. Managing and leading. What was the other one? Managing what and what else?
And so management versus leading, and then everyone is in sales. And then the third part that I didn't get to is, again, this is the key that, I help people understand. And this all actually answers the, what would I do in individual coaching? And even with teams is shift the mindsets of these things, right? Sales is not bad, like just around these things. Because once you understand this, then everything else gets easy. It actually gets easier in sales because now you understand what your role actually is. Right. But the last part is that it's not B2C, it's not B2B, it's not retail, it's not enterprise, it's not big ticket, it's not small ticket, it's not any of that. It's H to H, right? Anyone that's heard me for years knows I say this all the time. It's human to human. And really the key is that your product doesn't matter until you apply that, but you have to be good at you as a human and the other human and understanding it. And once you understand those fundamentals of humans, then the rest is just, I call it admin. The rest is just a process.
Yeah, man, that's good. That's good. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I know it's corny, but and clear, like you said, cliche, but that's real. People do not care. You could have gold inside the treasure chest that could change their life forever. They don't want to be near that treasure chest. They don't care what's in it. But if you can be a human, and by being a human, what Jason is saying is that by being a human, you allow the other person to be a human, which allows them to share authentically from their perspective. In the moment someone opens themselves up and they're able to, and they feel comfortable enough to share, that's when you can start to create change or begin to now share your idea or service because now they're open and not rejecting, right?
Yeah.
Oh man,
Yep.
this is good. This is good. I hope for those who are listening, I hope that you got some notes from this. You can connect with Jason down in the comment section. If you're listening to this podcast, you can connect with him in the description. And it's about the H2H. We also talked about automating things to be able to do better business. You want to automate all the things around what the human is doing so that the human can do what they need to do better. Okay. They're not bogged down by the mundane repetitive task. And this is a very, very big deal. Also, the other thing, Jason's book. Jason, why don't you share a little bit about your book? We're coming in for a landing now, but I want folks to know what kind of tools and resources that you have for them.
Yeah. So the book that I published in 2020, Selling with Authentic Persuasion, the subtitle is Transform from Order Taker to Quota Breaker. One of the biggest things, and this is what we talked about, and it's also how I was raised and what I was doing in sales, because I didn't know what I was doing in sales when I first started, is that a lot of people default to order taker mode, even if they would never use that label on themselves. And they're underperforming and they're not closing as many sales as they should be, or their company is expecting them to. And it's typically a mindset thing because they don't want to be that person, right? That man or woman, that sales guy. They don't want to cross the line and do terrible stuff that they feel is done to them by salespeople, right? Going back to Mike's comment about the 4-letter word. And so most people default to order taker. They mean well, they want to help the world, they want to be successful. They think it's black or white, right? And it's not. There's a level in the middle called sales professional, and that's the key. And so how do you shift your mindset? And really the authentic persuasion model and mode is about you being you and being authentic about you and other people, and then understanding your role to persuade people and move them forward and not manipulate. So that book is available. If you like listening to me, there's 5.5 hours of Audible version narrated by me. So you can check that out. And then
5.5 hours. How long did it take you to do it?
Oh man, 5.5 hours. That was it.
Okay.
Just sat down. No.
You're good.
It took me a little longer than that. Yes, it was easier to write the book than it was to record it.
Oh man.
And so, that's a good resource. And then my website is sellingeffectiveness.com. And here's what I'll say. And I know that we're wrapping up here, but I'm going to say this because I tell people this all the time when I'm a guest on a show, as I say, when in doubt, if you don't know how to get a hold of me, you're not sure how to get a hold of me, when in doubt, I'm the #1 ranked Jason Cutter on Google. So just Google Jason Cutter and you'll find me. Now, here's the funny side story. I'm going to take an extra minute. Rob Howes did this to me as a guest on my podcast in 2019. I think it was 2019 or early 2020. We get to the end of the show. Hey, Rob, how can people find you? Rob says, I'm the #1 ranked Rob Howes on Google. Just Google me and you'll find me. We stop recording. We're still on our session together, but we're done recording. And I'm like, that is the most amazing call to action I've ever heard. I Googled myself and I was like, #5 Jason Cutter. There's this other sales guy and this guy that talks about planes and all. I'm like, that's never happening. And so I did about 200 guest appearances and I'm now at 750 podcast episodes and I've written 8 books. And so I dominate the first 6 pages. And it's funny because I tell people that story all the time. And it's because of you, Rob. It's because of #1 ranked Rob Howes.
I remember that conversation.
Yep.
Because I swear that's the first time I had said that.
What?
And then I just kept saying it. Yeah. Because I realized I should probably say this because this is a true statement and it's easy to find.
and here's what I'll tell everyone watching or listening. It's a funny story. It's great. I didn't do it intentionally. I'm going to go out there and dominate it. It's just who I am anyway. But I'll tell you how important that is for everybody. Even if you're an individual contributor, salesperson, you don't think it matters. Branding doesn't matter. I work for a company. Everyone is going to Google you and your company between not talking to you and talking to you if it's a referral, or talking to you and buying if there's a thinking time period. They're going to look you up. They're going to see what they can find. And whatever they find is going to sway their opinion for or against you. And so if you don't have anything online, or it's only certain stuff or personal stuff, it could affect you. Do not assume that people are stupid and lazy and aren't going to research you. So important to make sure you have content out there, even as an individual contributor. So I just want to add that in there as another.
Great freaking point, man. Great point, man. So, all right.
There
So
you go.
as we come in for landing, man, give us your best piece of business advice and your favorite quote.
Business advice or sales advice?
Anyone.
Okay, so I'm gonna go sales advice because this is the one I love the most and it makes people laugh. When in doubt, do the opposite of what you think a salesperson is supposed to do. Meaning, when you think, oh, salespeople are supposed to do this, and I'm supposed to call this way, and this is my intro, and this is how I do cold calls, and this is what I send in my emails, and this is what I do on LinkedIn. Stop. Like, I don't know how this is a universal playbook, but when in doubt, do the opposite of what salespeople do. And I promise you, you will be more successful without doing anything different because your potential customers are tired of salespeople doing salespeople-y things. So just do the opposite, right? Literally rewrite your emails and do the opposite. And I promise it'll work because it's a pattern interrupt. So stop doing like everyone else. And then my favorite quote, which you said earlier, one of the most important things is people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And part of the reason why is because we have unlimited internet, unlimited information, and everyone in our life and everyone we meet is also super busy and doesn't listen to us and doesn't care and doesn't pay attention to us no matter who they are. Like, just generally, like, think about how many times you've had a conversation where someone asks you questions and actually cares about your answer. It's super rare. So as a business person, as a salesperson, if I help you understand that I actually care about you more than I care about me and my quota, you will listen to me because no one else in their life does care and does listen to them.
Man, that's good. That's good stuff right there. I hope you guys are listening, tuning in. Listen, this is Jason Cutter. Connect with him. This advice is good, but advice is like seeds. Your mind is the soil. In order to water it, you have to take action. I believe action is the water all. Okay? Take some action, water some seeds, and let's see what grows. Jason, man, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Rob.
So you are listening to the Automation Nation podcast. Remember, you don't know what you don't know. So get around someone who knows more than you. Peace out. Automation.